Samson and Dalilah. Welcome to our channel. Today, we tell one of the most fascinating stories from the Bible, the tale of Samson and Dalilah, a story of immense strength, betrayal, and redemption. Let's journey back in time to ancient Israel. In the land of Israel, during a time of great oppression under the Philistines, there lived a man named Manoah from the tribe of Dan. Manoah and his wife were a righteous couple, but they were childless, a source of great sorrow and longing in their lives. One day, as Manoah's wife was alone in the fields, an angel of the Lord appeared to her, shining with divine light and radiance. "Behold," the angel said, "though you are barren and have borne no children, you shall conceive and bear a son. This child will be special. He shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb, and he will begin to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Therefore, be careful and drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from birth." Manoah's wife, filled with awe and excitement, ran to tell her husband about the divine encounter. Manoah, deeply moved, prayed to the Lord, asking for further guidance on how to raise this promised child. God answered Manoah's prayer, and the angel reappeared to his wife while she was in the field. She quickly fetched her husband, and together they received the angel's instructions. The angel reiterated the conditions of the Nazirite vow: no wine, no strong drink, no unclean food, and no razor should touch the boy's head. Manoah, wanting to show his gratitude, offered to prepare a meal for the angel. However, the angel declined and instead instructed them to offer a burnt offering to the Lord. As the flames consumed the offering, the angel ascended in the fire, leaving Manoah and his wife in awe of the divine encounter. In due time, Manoah's wife bore a son, and they named him Samson, which means son-like. The child grew, and the Lord blessed him. From a young age, Samson exhibited extraordinary strength and was conscious of his special calling. His parents carefully observed the Nazirite vow, ensuring Samson adhered to the divine instructions. As Samson grew into a young man, his feats of strength became legendary. He would often surprise his family and neighbors with his incredible physical prowess, effortlessly performing tasks that would be impossible for ordinary men. Despite his immense strength, Samson was known for his impulsive and passionate nature, traits that would shape his destiny in unexpected ways. One day, while traveling to the Philistine town of Timnah, Samson saw a young Philistine woman who caught his eye. Against his parents' wishes, he insisted on marrying her, saying, "Get her for me, for she pleases me well." Reluctantly, Manoah and his wife accompanied Samson to Timnah to arrange the marriage. On the journey, as they passed through the vineyards of Timnah, a young lion suddenly sprang out roaring towards Samson. Without hesitation, the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and Samson tore the lion apart with his bare hands as if it were a young goat. However, he did not tell his parents what he had done. Later, on his way to claim his bride, Samson turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. To his astonishment, a swarm of bees and honey were inside the lion's carcass. He scooped out some honey and ate it, sharing it with his parents without revealing its source. This incident would later inspire a riddle that Samson would pose to the Philistines. At the wedding feast, Samson, in a jovial mood, proposed a wager to the 30 Philistine companions who attended him. He said, "Let me put a riddle to you. If you can explain it to me within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. But if you cannot explain it, you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes." The Philistines agreed, and Samson posed his riddle. Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. For 3 days, the Philistines could not solve the riddle. On the 4th day, they pressured Samson's new wife to coax the answer from him, threatening her and her family. Desperate, she wept before Samson and pleaded with him to reveal the answer. On the 7th day, Samson, wearied by her incessant crying, finally disclosed the secret. She immediately relayed the answer to the Philistines. Before sunset on the 7th day, the Philistines approached Samson with the answer: "What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion?" Samson, realizing he had been betrayed, angrily retorted, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." In a fit of rage, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon, killed 30 men, and took their garments to pay off his debt. Burning with anger, he returned to his father's house, leaving his wife behind. Some time later, during the wheat harvest, Samson visited his wife with a young goat as a peace offering, hoping to reconcile. However, her father refused to let him see her, explaining that he had given her to one of the Philistine companions, thinking Samson hated her. In a further insult, he offered Samson his younger daughter instead. Enraged, Samson declared, "This time I shall be blameless regarding the Philistines if I harm them." He caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together in pairs with torches, and set them loose in the Philistines' grain fields. The foxes ran through the fields, setting the grain, vineyards, and olive groves ablaze. This act of vengeance devastated the Philistines, who in retaliation burned Samson's wife and her father to death. Samson's fury only grew. He attacked the Philistines with great slaughter, and then retreated to a cave in the rock of Edom. The Philistines, determined to capture him, raided the territory of Judah, demanding that the men of Judah hand over Samson. 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave and pleaded with Samson to surrender to avoid further bloodshed. Samson agreed to be bound with new ropes and handed over, but he made the men of Judah swear not to kill him themselves. As the Philistines came to meet him, shouting in triumph, the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon Samson. He snapped the ropes like burned flax, and, finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he used it to strike down 1,000 Philistine men. After the battle, exhausted and thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, who provided water from a hollow place in the ground, reviving his spirit. Samson judged Israel for 20 years during the period of Philistine oppression. Despite his victories, he was not immune to personal weaknesses, particularly his love for Philistine women. It was this weakness that ultimately led to his downfall. In the valley of Sorek lived a woman named Dalilah, with whom Samson fell deeply in love. The Philistine rulers, seeing an opportunity, approached Dalilah with an enticing offer. They promised her 1,100 pieces of silver each if she could discover the secret of Samson's great strength. Dalilah, motivated by the promise of wealth, began her mission to uncover Samson's secret. She pleaded with him, saying, "Please tell me where your great strength lies, and with what you may be bound to afflict you." Samson, aware of the dangers, toyed with her, giving false answers. First, he claimed that being bound with 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried would weaken him. Dalilah tried this, but he snapped the bowstrings effortlessly when she called the Philistines to capture him. Unperturbed, Dalilah pressed him again. This time, Samson said he could be subdued with new ropes that had never been used. Dalilah bound him with new ropes, but once again, when the Philistines came, he broke free with ease. Dalilah continued to nag and plead. Samson then suggested weaving the 7 locks of his hair into a loom would make him as weak as any other man. Dalilah did so, but when the Philistines came, he awoke and pulled away the loom and the web, remaining as strong as ever. Day after day, Dalilah nagged and pressured Samson. Her persistence wore him down, and finally, in exasperation, he revealed the truth. "No razor has ever come upon my head," he confessed, "for I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." Dalilah realized he had told her the truth. She sent for the Philistine ruler, saying, "Come up once more, for he has told me all his heart." They came with the promised silver in their hands. While Samson slept on her lap, Dalilah called for a man to shave off the 7 locks of his hair. As his hair was cut, his strength left him. Dalilah began to torment him, and he awoke, thinking he would free himself as before. But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. The Philistines seized Samson, gouged out his eyes, and took him to Gaza in chains. During a pagan sacrificial ritual, the Philistines had gathered in Gaza to celebrate. As was their custom, they paraded Samson, their prized enemy prisoner, into the temple to entertain the jeering crowds. Samson braced himself between the 2 central support pillars of the temple and pushed with all his might. Down came the temple, killing Samson and everyone else in the temple. Through his death, Samson destroyed more of his enemies in this one sacrificial act than he had previously killed in all the battles of his life. The story of Samson and Dalilah is a powerful tale of strength, betrayal, and redemption. It reminds us of the consequences of straying from our vows and the possibility of redemption, even in our darkest moments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories from ancient times.